I recently sat down with Michael Kilpatrick. He's a farmer, educator, and host of the Thriving Farmer podcast. And he is also with Growing Farmers and Farm on Central. So this conversation is a Q&A from our recent Superfood Garden Summit. And in this session, Michael answers a variety of questions about growing fruit, sharing practical tips to help you produce healthier plants, better harvests, and more predictable edible harvests. So, whether you're growing berries, fruit trees, or other perennial crops, you're going to pick up some ideas that you can apply in your own garden. I hope you enjoy the conversation. You'll find links to related resources and more information in the video description below. Now, let's jump in.
There was one question earlier that I got. Someone was saying about raspberries. They tried to grow yellow raspberries. Why aren't they growing? And unfortunately, we're not at your garden, so I can't tell you exactly. What I would say is that I was literally at a house a couple nights ago, and they brought us around the side of their house, and they showed us their entire side of their house was covered in raspberries. 4 or 5 different types. There was yellow, there was black, there was red. They were gorgeous. They were covered with fruit. They were beautiful. And they said, hey, we had these on the other side of the house and they weren't doing well, so we moved them. And now they're just absolutely wonderful. So a couple of things for raspberries in particular is they hate wet feet. So if you have a wet part of the yard or they're not hilled up, they can absolutely just kind of sit there and not do so hot at all. So I think location is very important. Your soil is going to be very important. So knowing the type of your soil, knowing the fertility, what it has in it, what it doesn't. Doing a soil test is key. Keeping the weeds out of them, keeping them mulched, keeping them trellised. All those things are going to affect your yield and going to affect how you grow. And again, your soil type may affect it, or your location may affect it. So that's definitely something to think about. I will say that some varieties we were in zone 6B aren't going to love it in here. It's just a little too warm for them. So they're going to, you want to make sure that you're picking the right varieties for your area. But yeah, it can be a little bit of different things, and you're never really going to know until you start to dive into the kind of the issues around it.
Another question I saw in the chat was, can you grow fruit in raised beds?
Absolutely. And so strawberries are probably going to be your most common because your yield is the best. And it really depends on what type of raised beds. Are these like a garden tower, or are these, not. Some people have like elevated garden beds where you got open space underneath, and like raspberries and blackberries really need a lot of space for their roots, as well as elderberries. So if you have like an open bottomed raised bed that you can do that, it just seems like a lot of work for something a little bit larger, like a blackberry or raspberry or something like that. So the things, obviously, we see rhubarb in raised beds. We see the strawberries in raised beds. I'm just trying to think what other fruit we talked about. But those are the most common ones. And strawberries, very common. We see them all the time in raised beds. Even green stalks and things like that do quite well and are worth the investment, especially if you plant them every single year.
Yeah, I had somebody ask me not long ago that question too, and I think it depends on how many raised beds, how much space you have,
Yes.
like how you want to use it, right? Because
Yes.
blueberries, her question was about blueberries, and as they grow bigger, they can take up a lot of space.
Yes, yeah. So we recommend just hilling up, adding a lot of peat moss to and just making like a mound and putting your blueberries on a mound system, and then mulching that with wood chips. And typically they do quite well in that situation.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so we have a lot of new gardeners growing or joining us this year. So what type of fruit would you recommend for people just getting started growing fruit?
Yeah. So things that are super easy. Rhubarb actually is pretty easy. Now it's a little too late this year to plant, so I really wouldn't go after any till next January for down south, and then March, April, May is typically the time to put it in, the end time that you'd want to put it in. Rhubarb, again, all you're going to do is make a mound of compost. I mean, like literally dig the soil up a little bit, put like a bag or two of compost on it, put your basically they come in root sections. You plant like a rhizome, it looks brown, it looks dead. You plant it the right side up and they take off. And then literally that's to keep it watered and add a couple bags of compost every single year. They love manure, they love compost, they love that rich, dark soil. If you keep them happy, they'll take off. Strawberries are easy too, especially the ones where you plant in the fall, because it's a live, living plug that comes. You're not trying to re-wake something up. Blueberries are, I would say, the toughest of everything we talked about. Blueberries are by far the toughest one. That you have to really work on the pH. You have to keep them really well weeded. Blackberries are pretty simple. You just keep the weeds away from the blackberry, and the blackberry will grow. They'll pretty much grow in almost any soil. Raspberries are, the further north you go, the easier they seem. Down here in Ohio, it's a little bit more of a challenge. Back where we were in New York with that light, hilly soil, oh, they loved it. They grew. They did absolutely crazy well.
Awesome. Okay. So, Lee said due to gophers, she has to grow everything in pots, raised beds, and towers. So, I'm curious which fruits might be easiest to grow in containers.
Yeah, so with gophers, yes, they're a problem. There's not a tremendous amount you can do that's not particularly harmful to the gopher. You can't deter them very easily. It's typically fatal. The most effective termination for them is, unfortunately, that's just what it is.
Yeah.
People really, gophers, ground squirrels, chickmunks, and squirrels can be just awful to try to get completely out of your place because they're so mobile. And gophers, you're amazing, and gophers and moles, how they can be so mobile and be under the ground. But for some reason, it just works for them. You can also net your beds in ground beds. If it's literally the gophers that are giving you issues, I have seen people take landscape or just like a 1/4 inch wire and like stick it down into the ground, and then a bottom underneath the beds. It takes a lot of work to kind of dig them out and build them. But once they're done, you have a long-term effectiveness for that. But the absolute easiest would be to make raised beds. And then in your raised beds, just put a nice heavy-duty wire mesh at the bottom of your raised bed, and you'll keep them from tunneling up into your beds. Yeah, if you're doing pots, really the only things you can really do easily in pots are strawberries. Strawberries do great in pots. A lot of commercial production now is actually in greenhouses and pots. But your raspberries probably your next easiest thing. Blackberries, they'll get 6-7 feet tall, so those things will go nuts. I've seen people do blueberries in pots. You get in a 3 to 4 gallon pot to do well. There's some dwarf blueberry varieties, so those would probably do well as well. Rhubarb you could put in a pot if you want. You could do elderberries. We have elderberries grown in a pot for year 1, and then they transplant it for the next year. So that's kind of what we see the most common.
Okay, awesome. So we have a question from Lisa. I planted raspberry bushes my garden teacher gave me, and many of the leaves are wilted and dying. They were planted, cardboard placed down, and mulched with leaves. Can I revive them?
Well, this is another instance where I want to see the pictures, and it's a simple aspect of, are we drying out, and so we're losing leaves because we're drying out, or are we actually have a disease or something? So first I'd want to see, if we pull back that cardboard, pull back those leaves, is the soil still damp? Leaves do sometimes tend to have a matting effect where the water can't go through the leaves and actually propels the water. So get down underneath that, check to make sure it's damp. If you put your finger in it, still moist. Then we're probably starting to look at, have you been 90 degrees? And the plant can't take up enough water. In that instant, chop back 1/2 to 3/4 of the stuff above ground. Just get that greenery off the plant. It will shock it, but it's already getting shocked because it can't keep up. It can't bring enough water up through the plants to take care of the leaves anyway. So you're going to set it back a little bit, but it would be that the alternative is it's going to just die on you. So that would be the next aspect of it. Could just be that. The third one would be, are we actually dealing with disease? And again, that will be a little bit different than just curling and dying. Disease typically looks for some spotting and things there first, and then we're going to do it. So again, you could possibly spray some sort of fungicide for that. Sometimes we'll use copper, sometimes a horticultural oil, but we're going to kind of need to identify first what the issue is, and then we can kind of come up with a solution for that.
Okay, awesome. Jen is asking, do I need to rotate my strawberries every 3 years?
Well, we rotate every single year. And actually, I'm watching my team right now. They are at our other farm. They're actually taking out a bed of berries, or a whole section of berries that was planted last fall, and we're sticking in sweet potatoes into that same section. So we treat them like a vegetable, leave them in the ground for a year, and out they come. And the reason for that is we're harvesting 10 days earlier. Our berry size is much larger. I mean, this year, Denise, we actually had berries that weighed a quarter of a pound each.
Oh my goodness.
They were ginormous. People could not believe how big the berries were.
Wow.
But now, right now, it's a couple weeks later, so now we're into the little berries. They're still very sweet, but they're smaller now. But it's the end of the season, that's why we're ripping them out. You can leave them in the same spot for a couple years if you so desire. We never will at this point, because we just see the advantages of planting new ones every fall with the size. We don't have any disease. We keep the weeds back. Again, if you put them in the ground and then let them sit all summer long, they're not giving you anything all summer long. So I'd much rather, after my strawberries are done, twist them out, put something else in. You can do a late planting of beans. You can do a late planting of corn. You could plant fall lettuces and spinach and carrots in that location. And that's exactly, all those things is what we do with our 2 acres of strawberries when they come out. We plant all those other, we put pumpkins in, winter squash. So it gives you a lot more, yes, it does. I will say the cost of the plants every single year is something to think about. But if you take those plants out, plant something else in, you'll get way more value out of what you've planted in there. Denise, one of my rules for gardening is that we want to grow as much food on as little land as possible. So we're very intensive. While some people are extensive and they want to plant like a 1/4 acre garden, I don't want to weed a 1/4 acre garden. I want to weed 3 beds, 3 4 by 12 foot beds, which will give me as much food as some of these massive gardens, because most of that food rots, goes to waste, doesn't produce, because the whole thing can't be cared for very well. So people always are blown away by the amount of food that we get out of a very small area. And it's because we take care of that area. And so that's our preference, is fertilize, put compost down, do the soil tests on, and really take care of a small space. And we get a tremendous amount of food out of that.
Awesome. That actually ties into the next question I had here, was for somebody that can only pick one fruit crop to grow and they want production, they want abundance.
Yeah.
What would you recommend?
For abundance, I mean, again, if you got the space, why not put some triple crown blackberries in, or Chester blackberries? I mean, those things will give you gallons per plant. Now, they do take space. They get big. So you want like a 4 by 4 foot space. They get 6 to 7 feet tall. They're going to take off. If you don't need as much yield, go with a Ponca blackberry. They're a lot more upright. You can put them in a little bit tighter. You don't really have to trellis them. We do. We don't have to trellis them. I mean, again, if you want to ask my personal opinion, I would just grow strawberries. I'm obsessed with strawberries. But again, if you're going for just yield, I would go ahead and put in your blackberry. There's nothing like it. It's amazing. I mean, like, I don't think I have a picture in that of the last year's berry crops, but literally the Triple Crown is a wall of flowers, and then once you get into August, it's a wall of berries, and the birds and us can't pick them fast enough. There's so many berries. So the amount of fruit coming out of those things is pretty remarkable.
Nice. A couple people were asking if you could repeat the varieties of blackberries that you recommend. I know the Triple Crown is the abundant one. Yep.
So Chester and Triple Crown are 2 varieties that they're a later season, but the yield on them is just tremendous. Ponca is a little bit earlier, and Ponca is a lot more upright. So they don't trail on you. They won't take over a huge amount of space. They will runner a bit underneath the ground, but just mow it off. If you mow it off, they'll just disappear. And we have one other variety. We have a couple other varieties in the store, but the other variety that we have planted here at our farm is Natchez. And Natchez, the berries are literally the size of your thumb. They are literally 2 inches long. They are ginormous. They are tremendous. It's amazing. I actually don't like the flavor, though. The flavor I don't think is fabulous. But if you want to be, win the award at the biggest blackberries in the neighborhood, that will take the cake every single day of the week. Here where we are in Zone 6B, we do lose it about 50% of a crop every year to frost. We haven't gotten a full crop 1 year yet off Natchez. But off the other 3, they're fabulous. They're great. But yeah, that Triple Crown, it's kind of hard to beat it.
Yeah, I think it's not just I saw at the farmer's market last weekend because it's like, oh, wow,
Yeah,
those
you're
are
like, wait a
amazing.
minute, where did those come from?
Yeah.
No, completely natural breeding. I mean, they're not engineered in any way at all. And again, it always comes back to get an extreme, you give something else up. So the extreme is I want the largest fruit. You're going to give up flavor a little bit. You're going to give up the lateness. You're going to lose a little bit more to the frosts. For the other Triple Crown, you're going to give up some fruit size. I mean, they're decent sized berries, but they're not big because literally you have 9 million of them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, as we wrap up, I wanted to ask you, you've ran a lot of events like this. And so people are excited and there may be a little bit of information overload. So what is your tips for, how to turn all of this knowledge into actual
Yeah,
steps and
I
action?
mean, yeah, I'm not getting paid to say this, but grab that all access because the beautiful thing about that is you can go back and refer to it at a later date. And that's the thing. It's like you'll find something. You'll be like, oh, wait a minute. He was talking about this, and then go back and watch it. So it also gives you, obviously a list of all the different presenters and stuff. So you can go back and follow up through their information and all that. So it gives you one nice place a hub to kind of have all that information. But the other thing is, 2 other pieces of advice. Again, start small. Just plant 3 blackberry plants. Don't plant 3 dozen. We here at our place, we're a little bit on the other end of things. We plant, 2 acres of stuff. So it's just a little bit of a different scale. But we started.
Yeah, you didn't start there.
Yes. If you go back and look at some of the pictures from 2017, I was planting 150-foot bed of strawberries. That's kind of the scale that we were at. It took us a couple years to scale. And I guess the other thing I would say is start somewhere. There's nothing wrong with going to, if you don't have a lot of money, going to Lowe's. I hate to say that, but go to Lowe's, go to the dumpster out back and dig through a little bit, find some strawberry plants which look a little sad. Plant those.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with getting started like that. And then after you get a little bit more confidence and nurse some things back to health and try to grow things, then you'll get to the point where you feel confident to order online and say, oh, yes, this is exactly what I want. And yes, it's going to cost a little bit more, but I know it's going to make it work for me.
Yeah, I think farmers markets are another great place because they're actually growing in your area and you can ask them questions. So
yes, if I had a good budget and I could go, I would absolutely go to a farm nursery or a farmer's market and talk to them. Yes, but those places are going to be more expensive because the quality is going to be much better. Again, if you come to our market here, our tomatoes are a little bit more expensive. Actually, you know what? Our tomatoes are cheaper than the Bonnie plants at Lowe's. And that's just because it is what it is. But I'd say our quality is a lot better. But yes, if I had the preference, I would go to a local because they're also going to know what's in your location. Because the problem when you go to those big box stores is that they're bringing in varieties that they don't know if they're regionalized or anything. Mm-hmm. So if you go to someone local, like here in Ohio, when you come buy blackberries from us, I can tell you exactly like these varieties because they're sitting out in my field.
Michael makes growing your own fruit feel so much more within reach. The berries, the trees, all of it. And this is just a taste. Michael is one of 15 expert teachers in our Superfood Garden Summit. And right now, you can watch every one of them completely free. Here's a look. So what's actually inside the Superfood Garden Summit? Here's a look. Across 4 themes, you'll learn it all. Building living soil, growing abundance, turning your harvest into everyday meals and remedies, and using your garden to nourish your health and the people you love.
You'll learn from 15 of the most trusted teachers in regenerative gardening, herbal medicine, and home food production. Names like Charles Dowding, Ocean Robbins, Seja Popham, Kami McBride, Matt Powers, and many more, each sharing one practical, transformative lesson. Hosted by Denise Bynes, owner of Grow Your Own Vegetables, on a mission to help 1 million new gardeners grow their own food.
And you can watch all of it free together in your own 48-hour window. Go to growyourownvegetables.org/summit and start watching today.